At 22,000 feet up the side of Mount Llullaillaco, the oxygen levels drop by half. It is a desolate, frozen death zone, where simply surviving a few hours is a monumental physical challenge. But right at the summit lies the highest tomb on Earth. Inside that tomb sits a 14-year-old girl known as the Maiden. She has been up here in the freezing winds for 5 centuries, wrapped in a blanket, looking like she simply nodded off to sleep. Her preservation defies logic. Her skin is completely intact, the colors on her textiles remain vibrant, and her delicate hands rest in her lap, showing zero signs of the decay we expect from a 500-year-old body. When a modern teenager dies suddenly, a forensic pathologist typically looks for signs of a traumatic accident. Yet CT scans of her skeleton show no broken bones, no skull fractures, and no evidence of a fall. The extreme cold of the mountain peak might seem like the obvious culprit. But those same scans reveal all 5 bones in each of her feet are perfectly preserved, with no evidence of frostbite. Furthermore, her stomach lining lacks the superficial ulcers that typically form during hypothermia. Starvation is also off the table. Her digestive tract contains the remnants of a meal consumed roughly 2 hours before her heart stopped beating. No fall, no frostbite, and no starvation. We are looking at a 14-year-old girl wrapped in a 500-year-old cold case, and solving it requires modern forensic science. The investigation starts with a single strand of hair. Analyzing trapped chemicals lets bioarchaeologists plot a biological timeline of her final months. 3 months before her death, there is a massive shift. She starts consuming highly preserved, calorie-dense foods like maize and freeze-dried llama meat. These are the exact rations used to supply the ancient Inca highway system. This chemical signature tracks her movement across the empire, beginning in the capital of Cusco and covering a 1,000-mile pilgrimage to reach this remote volcano. Without horses or wheeled carts, she walked every step of that journey. She crossed some of the most unforgiving terrain on the continent, including desolate, high-altitude deserts entirely devoid of water. The artifacts buried alongside her tell us exactly why she was chosen for this trek. She was wearing a spectacular feathered headdress, marking her as a virgin of the sun. These were young girls taken from their families to live cloistered lives preparing offerings for the gods. The other objects confirm her elite status. These specific ceramics originated directly from Cusco, and she carried a male tunic indicating a close tie to local nobility, or possibly the Inca emperor himself. The Maiden was a highly prized religious figure, purposefully escorted out of the capital and marched for months to the very edge of the sky. To piece together what happened when she finally reached the summit, investigators checked a different set of chemical signatures, her toxicology report. Her system contained massive concentrations of compounds derived from chewing coca leaves. In high altitudes, this acts as a powerful stimulant to ward off exhaustion and sickness. Investigators found extremely high levels of alcohol from chicha, an ancient corn beer. A wooden drinking cup was buried right beside her in the tomb. When you mix that volume of alcohol and stimulants with the suffocatingly thin air at 22,000 feet, the biological reaction is immediate. It induces severe sedation, physical disorientation, and powerful hallucinations. But a closer physical examination reveals evidence of distress. There is vomit on her lips, and her hair is braided so tightly that investigators conclude it had to be woven by someone else just hours before she died. The combination of the vomit and those incredibly tight braids suggests a high-stress ritual environment. Her body was physically reacting to the intoxication and the surroundings, even as the final preparations were being woven into place. The Maiden was intentionally and heavily drugged by the priests escorting her. They incapacitated her completely to ensure absolute control over her final moments. On other Andean peaks, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of children whose lives ended violently, showing clear spear wounds or blunt force trauma. The Maiden has 0 marks of violence. She wasn't buried alive either. When someone suffocates under dirt or snow, their hands typically show signs of a desperate struggle. The Maiden's hands remain gracefully folded in her lap, and her fingernails are perfectly pristine. The tool used to end her life was actually the first thing investigators removed from her body. It was a thick, woolen cloth, pulled entirely over her head and knotted tightly at the back. The final forensic verdict points to a rapid, quiet suffocation. Heavily sedated by alcohol, constrained by the cloth, and breathing air with half the normal oxygen, she would have quickly slipped away. While modern perspectives may label this an execution, the Quechua language lacks word for sacrifice. They used the term offering, viewing the ritual as a process of divine transformation. The Inca believed the highest volcanic peaks controlled the weather and the fertility of their livestock. Returning a perfectly pure child to the mountain, the womb of the earth, was the ultimate gesture of gratitude to the gods. That seemingly peaceful expression on her face is exactly what the priests intended. It is the result of a carefully executed ritual designed to freeze a 14-year-old girl in time and leave her resting on the summit as an eternal guardian of the Andes.